No one talks about this, but you can feel it. You were visible once, but over time that faded. Not all at once, but slowly, quietly, while you were still delivering. You're still in the meetings, still making the numbers move, still saying yes to projects no one else wants. But now you pitch an idea and it dies in silence. You speak and someone else gets the credit. You hit your targets and nothing happens. You tell yourself it's just a slow season, that the right person will notice eventually, but they don't. And a question starts forming in your mind, quietly at first, then louder. Did I miss something? Am I falling behind? Is this it? Because on paper you're doing everything right, but inside you feel it. You're not moving anymore. And no one told you how to fix that from inside the system until now. Because the truth is, you're not stuck. You're misaligned. And in this video, I'm going to show you 3 levers that changed everything for me. Not by working more, but by finally becoming visible, valuable, and unignorable. Here's the truth I wish I'd heard earlier. Skill is not enough, not anymore. Inside the system, skill is expected. It's the baseline. What actually changes your trajectory is leverage. And leverage doesn't come from effort, it comes from alignment. I've built my career across continents, business models, and stages by aligning 3 invisible levers. Most people never see them, but once you do, everything shifts. Those levers are context, function, positioning. And I didn't learn them in theory. I learned them in the field, often the hard way. Let's start with level 1, context, or where you're playing. I started my career as a teacher, and one moment I'll never forget was the first day of training. We were in a giant assembly hall, hundreds of us packed in. The lead instructor walked to the front and said, "Teaching is an honorable profession. You'll never be rich, but it's honorable." And the room just nodded, but I couldn't, because something in me flinched. Not because I wanted wealth, but because I could feel something was off. That line wasn't inspiring. It was a warning. Honor in exchange for limitation. Purpose at the cost of momentum. I tried to ignore it. I worked hard, designed better lessons, put everything I had into the job. But here's what I realized. The better you are, the more they lean on you. Not to grow you, but to keep the system running. There's no compounding, no scale, no ownership. Just more hours, more expectations. You're rowing hard, but the boat is nailed to the dock. That was my first brush with leverage. Even if I didn't have the word for it yet, I wasn't underperforming. I was in the wrong context. Context is the environment you operate in, the company, the industry, the growth stage. And if you're in the wrong one, no amount of skill will set you free. That was the moment I stopped trying to outperform inside a capped system and started looking for a new game entirely. And this is what gets us to lever 2, function, or what you do. I didn't have a clear roadmap, but I had urgency. So I launched a coaching business, ran workshops, helped people through internal blocks, used hypnotherapy to shift mindsets and emotional patterns. It wasn't a tech job, it wasn't polished, but it taught me how business really works. Because when you're on your own, you have to figure out quickly what drives growth. And what I discovered was this: business doesn't scale on goodwill. It scales on customer acquisition and delivery. No leads, no cash, no clarity, no growth. And that led me to the second lever, function. Because in business, not all roles are equal. Some sit close to the engine: revenue, product, scale. Others orbit around those levers from a distance. And I realized, if I want leverage, I need to be in the engine room. I wasn't an engineer, but I was obsessed with marketing, especially demand generation. The art of building machines that pull people in rather than chasing them down. At the time, most companies I observed were still scaling with brute force outbound, manual, repetitive, expensive. And I saw the opportunity. What if we built inbound machines that created demand before the first sales call? That's not activity, that's leverage. So when I entered corporate, I chose deliberately. Not HR, not operations, not internal admin, but demand generation. Because that's where value becomes visible, where input creates output, where the line from effort to outcome is undeniable. I started at the bottom. No credentials, no tech background. But I kept choosing functions that touched revenue. And that's how I built momentum across multiple SaaS companies, from early stage teams to post-acquisition integrations. I focused on building repeatable engines that scaled ARR from single million digits to 9 figures. Same skill, different function, massive result. This brings us to the final lever, positioning, or how you're seen. But even then, there was a limit I hadn't broken through. Because here is what most people miss. You can drive outcomes and still be overlooked. There was a stretch where I was delivering real impact, but I was still being seen as a campaign executor, a task finisher, a plug-and-play resource. And I realized leverage isn't just what you do. It's how the market sees it. That's the third lever, positioning. So I rebuilt mine from the ground up. I stripped away every phrase that softened my value, cut out the stories that made me sound involved but not accountable. I started anchoring every sentence to one thing: revenue. And I began saying there are 2 types of marketers. One, the one that focuses on execution speed. 2, the one who reverse engineers revenue and builds a system around it. I'm the second. If you want more campaigns, don't hire me. If you want more revenue, that's what I do. And the shift was immediate. I wasn't being evaluated like a doer anymore. I was positioned as an operator. And when your positioning is clear, you stop chasing roles. They start finding you. That's how I moved into global leadership, managing distributed teams, earning Bay Area level compensation while based in Europe. That wasn't luck, that was leverage. So if you're feeling stuck, let's zoom out. It's not your mindset, it's not your resume, it's your alignment. Let's audit the levers. Context. Are you in the right environment that rewards the type of value you create? Function. Are you close to the engine or supporting those who are? Positioning. Do people know exactly what you drive and why it matters? Because if even one of these is off, your value will be capped. Not because you're not good, but because the system is designed that way. You don't need another degree, you need leverage. This isn't just about your job, it's about freedom. Because once you learn how to pull the levers, you stop asking for permission and stop hoping to be seen. You stop playing inside someone else's frame. You become the person who can move anywhere because you know what drives value. I didn't pull these levers to impress anyone. I pulled them because not pulling them meant staying stuck. And stuck was no longer an option. This is Career Capitalist. We build wealth inside the system. So one day you can walk away from it. Subscribe if that's the path you're on. And watch this next. Why financial independence feels so lonely and why you should want it anyway. Because once you know the levers and start pulling them with clarity, you'll realize something powerful. You were never overlooked because you weren't good. You were overlooked because you were misaligned. And now you're not.